Hey there, this is Adam's grandmother, and you're now tuned into the Archives with Adam podcast, where every episode dives deep into Adam's brain archives. With each guest, we uncover hidden stories, real memories, and conversations that bring you closer to the people behind the moment. Now, welcome to the Archives.
Today, we are just going to dive into a movie that's been near and dear to us. Some films, they make you laugh. Some become quotable, but only for a few they become culture. On April 26, 1995, we were introduced to the movie Friday, and that did all three of those things. 30 years later, we're finally shining a light on one of the women that made it unforgettable, Miss Angela Means. And more than a celebration, this is an untold story straight from the source. So welcome to the Archives with Adam, Angela.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So, before we talk about some of Friday's enduring impact and how Friday reminds, it just remains an iconic film and it influences generations for the years to come. The show is the Archives with Adam. So what that means is that we're going to shine all on your brain archives. We're going to dive deep in there and just really see if we could dig up some stories. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So one of the main questions I wanted to ask is, how did you get the role for Friday? And now with it being 30 years later, how does that reflect, for you? How does it feel to this very day?
Um, it feels amazing to be part of something that has stood the test of time. It's iconic, it's cult classic. I mean, it speaks for itself, and it's an achievement that that I'll have forevermore. No matter what happens, no one can ever take that away from me. Being a part of something so iconic. That first Friday was just, the Friday franchise overall, but that first Friday was just lightning in a bottle. If you notice, the film is basically Def Comedy Jam, the movie. I mean, every character that stands out was a Def Jam comic. So it came along at the same time as the height of Def Jam. I mean, Chris Tucker, myself, Bazon, AJ Johnson, Yvette Wilson, Bernie Mac. We were Def Jam All-Stars. So Cube did something so brilliant that a lot of filmmakers missed, was capitalizing on the institution of Def Comedy Jam, which was one of the hottest things in the culture at the time. And I think the role was pretty much mine, but I went in and I read for it, and I read for the casting director first, and she loved it. We riffed and had fun, and then I got brought back to meet F. Gary Gray and a couple of the producers, and had a great time in that casting. And I got offered the part, but at the time, my management passed on it. And I was out walking one day. It was about a week after the audition. I felt it. Like when when you nail something. When I left out of the room, I was like, I did that. I got this. And I wanted to do it so bad because it's a departure from, the pretty girl, the mom, in the kitchen cooking cookies, baking cookies. And I wanted to do something interesting like Felicia. So I called into the office and I was like, hey, what about that Cube project? And they were like, oh, yeah, you booked it, but we passed. I was like, what? You've got till today to get that script to me. Oh, my God, are you crazy? I, uh, and fortunately, they didn't book anyone else. Um, they didn't move on fast. So they got the script to me, and the rest here is history.
Yeah, no, you definitely, I guess, lucked out in that sense. I mean, because I'm
Yeah.
I'm not sure who could have filled that role, but when you first arrived on set, you have any idea Friday would become such a cultural time capsule? I mean, like you said, so many legends have graced that movie.
It reminded me of a film called Uptown Saturday Night. That was an ensemble piece that stood the test of time. It's an iconic film um, that was still very popular in the 80s. Then it kind of trailed off in the 90s, but it was the creme de la creme of Black comedy, Black ensemble comedy. And when I read this script, it read just like it. And I was like, wow. And my son's father read the script, and he's a brilliant screenwriter. And he read it, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a story. It's a good story. It's good. Like this is good. It's the day in the life, and those stories have to have colorful characters, have to have strong, and every character was strong. And then it did a complete arc at the end. It was just I knew I didn't think it was gonna be this big, but I knew watching Chris perform, I've never seen anything like it. Like he was so hot and so off the chain that we had to be quiet during the takes until Gary called cut, and then everybody could just bust out and start laughing. He was that funny. Like every single take was just it was like a show. It's like a comedy show. So it was just on editing at that point because I think everybody delivered. Everybody delivered. It was like it was amazing to watch.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think a movie made by, you know, someone that came from America's, most dangerous rap group, Ice Cube. But it's phenomenal, and I can't wait
Exactly.
for the next one. That
I mean,
obviously
Cube is just a creative.
he
You know,
is.
he would have branched off into other things. Like, I mean, he does everything. Cube's an entrepreneur,
And
and he
told you,
did
man.
yeah, and he did a lot of the business for for NWA, and
Yeah,
it just stands to reason that he would break off and, do other things with his creative talent. He's just a creative talent.
oh
So,
yeah. We definitely see that. At that
yeah.
time. I mean, I was only 5 when the movie came out, so I didn't know anything, right? I started seeing it when, as a little bit later in my ages, but
Right.
it makes sense. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, was there any stories from the time while you were on set that you've never told before, or one that really stuck out to you that was like a favorite? I mean, so many comedians, so many great names on set. I'm sure it was a great time.
It was a great time, but I mean, it was still business. It wasn't
Mhm.
it wasn't a party. It was business. And I only worked 2 days.
Oh
I only
wow.
had 2 days, and I captured that in 2 days. So the shoot was only 25 days. So we were literally, one and gun. It was like hit it and quit it. We were moving fast. Um, there were, it was a tight group. Everyone knew everyone. So we were like a bunch of cousins running around. Um, One thing, when if you notice, Felicia is the only character who sits on the porch with them.
Oh
Everyone
yeah,
else just
you're right.
walks up, right? So I always kept my eye on Gary, my director, just to see, what he needed, and I just stayed close to him. And he was a little stressed. He was like, "Come on, because we got to get her reverse." Because I was like, "No, no, we're not gonna do a reverse on me. Felicia's invasive. I'm going to go and sit on that porch." And he was like, "Oh, snap, bet." So they pulled a milk crate out, and I was the only one. And if you notice, I sat on Cube's arm. And that was one thing I aimed for. I aimed for his arm. And when I did that, it kind of made my thong go up in my butt. So when I when I sit down, you'll see me, I kind of do this, and I'm trying to get my underwear out my butt. So the first take after we do it, I stand up and Cube's like, get your drawers, you got a wedgie. I had a wedgie, right? In them loose shorts, I had a wedgie. So I walked off and I just pulled it out my butt, and everyone busted out and started laughing. So Gary's like, no, we got to break this down. We got to get the reverse. We got to get this. So he did have to break down, but he didn't have to do the entire scene. He just got my approach and my exit when I turned the corner and pulled my drawers out my butt.
That's
So
crazy.
that happened very organic. Cube and I seem to have had this synergy where, that was something that people will always remember, her pulling her underwear out. And then the bye Felicia is between me and Cube. And people don't understand. I'm not the one that said it. I'm Felicia. And a lot of times people be like, say it. And it's like, that wasn't my line. I
Yeah.
didn't say it. So him and I, the best moments. Well, and then there's Smokey. Write it down, take a picture. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But that's one of the ones that I remember. I mean, it was 30 years ago, so that one and uh seeing so my father from House Party 3, Ronaldo Ray, was
Mhm.
on the set too. And he played Red's dad.
Right.
And, you know, he only came on, there was another actor. And Ronaldo Ray came on just to coach the actor. And when production saw how good he did the role, they fired the actor and gave the job to Ronaldo.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
That.
because the guy couldn't get it. Like Ronaldo was classic in that. Ronaldo Ray.
Oh yeah. Big time. Big time.
So I mean, I stayed in character most of the time. Um, I got in, I got out. Really wasn't rehearsals. Felicia was a um I did a lot of work on her character. So she wasn't one of the characters that she wasn't a caricature. She was a real person. So I kind of stayed in character, and she was kind of a lone wolf. Her mother had remarried, and the new husband and her, that's Debbie, my sister, was a product of the new husband. So they were a nucleus family, and I was kind of alienated, the Felicia character. So
Mhm.
that's how she functioned. Um, so I don't know. That's I just kind of stuck to my character and kind of stuck to myself. Makeup was a trip. The scene where she puts the black eye on me.
Mhm.
Um, I remember kind of dozing off, and that's something that the makeup artist is huge in the business world, and she's a huge makeup artist. Like she's one of the biggest makeup artists in the business. And she said the only people who could really go to sleep in her chair, the only people who ever did was me and Regina King. And I mean, I would doze, and I dozed off. And when I woke up, I looked in the mirror, and it hit me so hard. Like I was so there, I was so in the moment. I was reliving whatever it was I had to relive. I was working method. A lot of people were just, having fun working as a comic, but I was working as a method actor. And I studied with one of the greats from New York studio. So I was working as a method actor. So everything was real to me. Acting isn't acting. Acting is being. So you create this character by You create their psychological background, their sexual background, their educational background, what they like to eat, their athleticism. You put all of that in, and then you trust it, their family background. You create all of this stuff, and then you put it in, you trust it. And then when you're up and you're going, you have created this person out that's inside of you. And so I literally went through the experience doing, that's the work. When people say the craft and doing the work, this is what I'm talking about. Like, part of the work is recreating this stuff so you can actually have that real emotion. So you're not acting, you're being. And when I opened up my eyes and I saw my face, and she had done such a incredible job, like, again, one of the best in the business, I started crying. And she came up behind me, she gave me this big hug, and then she was in my ear and she said, "If you mess up this makeup, I'm going to kill you." So I kind of broke character, and I was like, "I'm sorry, but golly, I just got beat up." um, I remember that moment, and it was quite profound, because I knew I was cooking. I knew I was resonating. I knew I was working it the way that I wanted to work it, you know, as a method actor.
Amazing. And you could tell, like you could tell with a lot of those scenes, and those are some things that I definitely am going to bring up, a little bit more in this episode, because you could tell the emotion. You could definitely see it with
Yeah.
many of the scenes.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to ask you, so it's actually been confirmed now that Ice Cube got the green light for last Friday. Finally,
Yeah.
it's about time.
Yeah.
Would you return back to that if offered? And how do you think that it would play out? I mean, we've lost so many key members. We lost Pops, Ezel, Bernie Mac, and even Tiny Lister.
Yeah. They waited so long.
They did.
They did. And it was just such a shame. It's like, because I to answer your question, I definitely would accept the role, but she would have to, have evolved. You know, I don't think a 60-year-old hood rat is funny. I don't. And I I would want her to have evolved and to be a shining example. I, would hope that they would find the humor in that, and that she could laugh at herself and move on. My thing is, I think her and Deebo um, had 8 kids. I think Deebo kept her pregnant for a decade, and she birthed an entire defensive line, and they all made it, and now she's balling. And she's got, you know, a $5 million house sitting in the middle of the hood because she never wanted to leave the neighborhood. You know, that's how I see her. And them coming to her asking for, to finance their dreams, and she gets to tell them, "Oh, I told you I was going to remember that, right?"
Turn
That's
turn by Felicia to high Felicia.
for real, for real, for real, for real. What's up, Felicia? For real, for real. Um, you know, people saw me do an interview a couple years back, and I got emotional. To clarify, I was exhausted. I had been working 14, 15-hour days as a restaurateur, Jackfruit Cafe, which was open for 7 years. Um, and I worked my tail off. We were one of the best restaurants in the city of LA. We were on everyone's list. Eater LA put us at the 22 top essential restaurants in LA. I was always on best of list, and I was exhausted. And I had just had someone say something so disparaging. It was really ugly what they said online. And when the interviewer asked me, I don't even remember what the question was, what sparked my tears, but I just don't think that we should use it. We should weaponize it. Don't say bye, Felicia, to a real Felicia. If you can't help somebody, don't try to hurt. It's like kicking someone when they're down. And yes, a lot of people who are down, they'll say crazy stuff to you. They'll have this bravado, but that's just to cover the pain that they're in. You know, people, these women don't have fathers. They've been abused in so many different ways. You see these hood rats that you just want to, beat them up or leave them alone. Go the other way. It's like a guy beating up on a girl, you know? There's really no reason for it. And someone had said something so nasty to me. And I was like, God, if they're saying that to me and I'm working my tail off to feed people, to help people. I got so many people got aunties and uncles off of their medication, got them into a new lifestyle. And then the comment was, F you, you dirty bitch. And when I said it in the interview, I was so tired and so worked up that I started crying.
And, it's there's
And people
obviously.
people accuse me of still being in the character, but it's the other way around. The character is still in me
Mhm.
because of the work that I did. Every character that I ever did, Aunt Vanessa from Cousin Skeeter, Vita, I could pull up Vita right now. I could pull up Vita. She loved kids. She was so infatuated with him. She probably knew that the relationship wasn't going to work, but she had fun. I can pull up Aunt Vanessa. I can pull up Aunt Vanessa anytime I want to because of the work that I did. They're in me. I'm not stuck in Felicia.
Yeah. And sometimes people don't realize some people do have trauma too, things that they dealt with in their past experiences. And hearing you talk about that character of Felicia, you know, I, I feel like she was misunderstood and whatnot. I don't know how you feel about it, but growing up as a kid, even in today's society, you see someone that's down and out and, you know, that kind of looks like a Felicia or, somebody that's on the street, you think, oh, they're a crackhead or, something along those lines. But as I grew up and understood, I'm like, I didn't live in the best neighborhoods. I lived in some poverty and things like that. And, you think like, hey, I've seen somebody like that. I'm familiar with that person. That might be that neighbor that just needs an extra helping hand, that may need a
Yeah,
little something. And, you know,
yeah.
this
There,
is
but
some
for the grace of God go I, because everyone is a paycheck or traumatic experience away from that. That could be any of us. It could be any of our relatives. And we as human, we're human though. Just like they're human, we're human too. And we stereotype and we judge a book by its cover. It's what we do as humans, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. Um, just like their upbringing, majority of people have been brought up like that to judge and point the finger and have dominion over other people because they're in a bad situation. It makes you feel better. And that's the human condition. That's just the human condition. But we want to instill in our children that we're not better than anyone else and that could be you someday. One slip up and we're all just hanging in there. you know Anything could happen where you become this when you become susceptible to judgment. And but Felicia was neglected. That's what I put in the bio, because I was playing her like a crackhead, and F. Gary Gray, the director, insisted she is not a crackhead. She's a hood rat. She's a hood rat. There's a difference. So what would make this beautiful woman walk around all grungy, in a relationship with the bully, asking to borrow people's microwaves. Who is she? So I had to sit with myself and I had to create her. And she was abused. She was neglected. And there are things that happened to her to make her have this sort of, you know, who doesn't know better? It was like she didn't know any better. Like she was just as innocent. Like who asked to borrow a VCR? Someone that's been through something, someone that's been neglected, someone that has no boundaries. And people who have no boundaries are generally people who have just been out there. And women, particularly beautiful women who have been out there, their mothers are either narcissistic, jealous of them, neglectful of them. So it's quite obvious Felicia was neglected.
Definitely. Well, hopefully last Friday, Felicia comes back. She has her 8 defensive linemen, and they play for the Cucamonga Cracker Killers. Man, if Ice Cube sees this, it's an idea.
Well, they would all be retired now. I mean,
Oh, okay, okay.
we should
I
have
can see that.
did that 10 years ago, because if she had babies, yeah, they'd only have, defensive linemen, they don't go that long. If they're that big, they're gonna go what, 10 years? So that was 30 years ago. So yeah, they would be retired now.
Yeah. Hollywood has a way to make, yeah, we'll leave that to Hollywood. So I definitely want to talk to you about some more of the movie. Some of the scenes that we were talking about, when Felicia, she has to borrow Craig's car and some weed. Did
That's
that
like her biggest scene.
did that take a few takes? Because I mean, we also got the "Bye Felicia" part, and the line in there. Like, did that all just seem like it happened all naturally?
Boom, boom. I think it was one take. I honestly think that it was one take because we shot that film in 25 days. So most of it was one take. Okay, we got it. Let's go. We got it. Let's go. That's why when I said, no, I'm going to sit on the porch, I was saving him time. He was like, oh my God, thank you. Because we were moving so fast. That's what I was saying. People were like, they think we were just on set partying and taking our time. We were running and gunning. Like it was, and F. Gary Gray was so deep in thought all of the time. Like he was just, I mean, he couldn't breathe. He had to get this in the can in 25 days. And they were editing as we were shooting. Yeah, so there was no, oh, let me try it this way. Oh, I want to try it that way. And that's why it works so well with comics, because comics are already in the moment. Comics are already having fun. Like, you want to borrow my car? Most people want to borrow sugar or ketchup. You want to borrow my car? Like bar, technical difficulties, the performances, we were all hot, we were all hungry, we were all at the top of our game when that was shot. We were all at the top of our game when it came to I mean, I was crisscrossing the world. I was on the Def Jam tour. I was opening for Chris Rock. I was opening for Bernie Mac. I was headlining clubs. I was at the top of my comedy game, you know? I was at the top of my ability to focus on this character. I was in major workshops, and the project was just lightning in a bottle. It was just lightning in a bottle. It was the time, mid 90s, when you turn on the TV in Los Angeles, South Central was just this violent place full of Bloods and Crips. And you got to see a glimpse of what was really happening You know, you got to see a glimpse of families and what was really happening inside the hood outside of, you know, bang, bang, shoot 'em up. You know, it became endearing. It became a real place other than a place to fear. Then you had all those Def Jam comics. Then you had a great script. It was just lightning in a bottle. There was nothing else like it. And I don't think the other Fridays in the franchise captured the magic of the first one. Not that they weren't good, but they just didn't capture the magic of the first one. So we were all at the top of our game. You know, I was a open wound to this character. I don't think anyone, I think it would have done the character injustice had she been one of these over the top crazy caricatures. I think there was too much of that. Like, you know, Smokey was a caricature. Deebo, he was a caricature. You know, Smokey's mom, Ezell was a caricature. I think, you know, Mrs. Parker, the preacher, they were all caricatures. And I think she was this real person inside of it all. And I wanted to play her real. And I don't think we would have I don't think she would resonate with people if she had not been played the way that I played her. So it was all kismet. It was all meant to be.
And you could tell, like, the scene where Felicia gets accused of stealing, obviously, leading into, the abuse from Deebo and stuff, when, Craig and them were breaking in the house trying to take the money that they needed. You could tell that, you could tell the emotion, even
Yeah.
Nia Long, she really sold that part really well too. So
Yeah. I think me, her, Regina King, Terry Bond, Anna Marie Horsford. We were the straight guys. All of those women. There were no other straight guys in it. And if you have a comedy like that, everybody can't be bouncing off the wall. You know, some have to be well thought out characters. And Felicia was an odd character that was played straight. And I enjoyed creating her. Um, she didn't have to be crazy and over the top and in your face. And, you know, she was a straight man. She set them up. Had I not been the straight man, that by Felicia wouldn't have worked. It would not have worked if I had been Craig. You know what? All I said was Craig. Bye, Felicia. It was such a magical moment. You know, it's just moments. The camera's going to catch everything. You don't have to be flailing it. You can be subtle. You can be in the pocket. You can be in the sweet part. And when I looked at him and said, Craig, and he just said, bye, Felicia, it just works. It just works. Subtlety in the midst of chaos. And look, that's one of the lines you remember. I mean, USA ran Friday for it was probably about 6, 7 years ago. And in the corner of the entire movie, it said bye Felicia in the bottom right corner. The entire run. It must have ran for about a month. And right there in the corner, it said bye Felicia. There has not been a character in cinematic history whose name has been spoken in pop culture as much as Felicia.
I didn't know
Debate
that.
me. Think about it. Who else?
You're right. Q brought that back with the movie Straight Outta Compton too. Like it was weird because there's a scene where him and NWA are at a hotel and they end up pushing a girl out the room and they say, bye
Bye,
Felicia.
Felicia. Yeah.
So I'm curious if it even was used before that with him, but it's no, I you got me thinking now. And once we're done with this episode here, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna think even more, I'm sure,
I mean,
about it.
think about it. Who else's name was used Like, that was hashtag over 1 billion times. It has been 1 billion times since it was hashtag. What other name is used in pop culture like that? In everyday conversation.
I don't
I've
think
ran
any.
into people who say, I say that 10 times a day. I say it all day, every day. I don't, what, you're killing me, Smalls? Maybe that, but that didn't reach the height of bye, Felicia.
I don't see people tweeting it. I don't think I've ever tweeted it.
You're
I know I've
killing me,
tweeted bye,
Smalls.
Felicia.
Yeah, it's bye, Felicia. I mean,
Yeah.
all the way up to Michelle Obama said it, The Rock, Cookie on Empire. They got scenes in sitcoms. They say it. It's just, do your homework, but there
Yeah,
isn't.
you got me
There
thinking.
isn't one.
Well, I definitely want to talk about some, things beyond Friday, for sure. I mean, I love hearing all those stories. It's wonderful, getting to celebrate a little bit with you. The movie's 30 years.
Thank you for tuning in to the Archives with Adam podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's deep dive into this week's guest stories and insights. And don't forget to stay updated on upcoming episodes only at the Archives with Adam podcast on Facebook and the Archives with Adam on Instagram. Catch you in the next episode.